Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and this is the Hour of the Raven, your channel for everything Ravenloft, RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, and horror.
Today, we will explore the secrets and past of Adam, the vengeful creature revived by Mordenheim, and the terrifying flesh golem that is the Dark Lord of Lamordia. Before we begin, a few brief clarifications and comments. This video will focus on Lamordia from the classic Ravenloft setting, and will consider the events and characters that existed in the domain before the reboot carried out by the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. At the end of my video coverage of Lamordia from the classic Ravenloft setting, I will make some considerations and comparisons with the new version of Lamordia in the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Furthermore, in some official publications we find several inconsistencies in the timeline regarding Lamordia, with dates and references that are contradictory. To try to bring some coherence to these dates, we will use as reference the revised and annotated timeline by John Mangrum. This excellent file is not official, but it presents the most complete and coherent attempt to organize a timeline of the classic Ravenloft setting. I will leave the link to this in the video description. Are you ready? After surviving yet another shipwreck, we swam across a cold sea until we reached the Isle of Agony. Amidst the desolate landscape and a blizzard, we plunged into a cave hidden by ice and found a network of underground caves. This unexpected shelter from the blizzard reveals even more secrets, as the place appears to be inhabited, and we found bookshelves filled with books. As the blizzard rages on the Isle of Agony, we wait for it to end on the caves, and study various handwritten notes, some with personal accounts from its mysterious inhabitant. Overcome with immense curiosity, we began to read a diary with the reminiscences and reflections of the strange creature.
Hour of the Raven.
Do not waste my time with tears or pleas. Since my creation I have found no solidarity, kindness, compassion or pity among humanity. The evil you claim to see in my eyes and my monstrous appearance are merely a reflection of the very depravity of men, and I declare myself an eternal enemy of your race, from whom I will exact my vengeance. Adam is a dread golem and the Dark Lord of Lamordia. The character is an adaptation for the Ravenloft setting of the Frankenstein creature from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein novel. The creature is a body reanimated from an amalgam of countless corpses by the power of science and the obsession of its creator. The character is perfect to explore themes such as the dangers of the unbridled pursuit of knowledge, responsibility for creation, loss of innocence and moral degradation, prejudice and social alienation, and revenge. Adam is a dread flesh golem, and from a distance he resembles an imposing, tall and corpulent man with long black hair that reaches his shoulders. Those who approach him notice that his pale gray skin is crisscrossed with scars and stitches, and his body is made up of parts of countless corpses. Around his eyes and mouth, the skin becomes wrinkled and has a more bluish and purplish tone, and his lips are thin and black. The eyes are a watery morbid blue, and at times seem to protrude from their eyelids, which are barely able to cover them. Adam spends most of his time alone and carries the traumas of his abandonment and rejection by his creator and society. Although he won't admit it, he has a deep desire for acceptance, and longs to be recognized as a man and not a monstrosity. He carries within him a great deal of frustration and bitterness, as well as contempt and desire for revenge. Those who confront Adam should be careful. His temperament is unpredictable, and his frustrations and traumas can quickly translate into outbursts of violence and cruelty. An act of arrogance, disrespect, or a lie can lead him to fits of rage, but those who treat him with dignity and respect may find reciprocal treatment, at least for a while, until he becomes angry again. Adam is extremely strong and resilient, and contrary to what many expect from flesh golems, he is agile and fast. His body possesses innate regeneration, and he is practically immune to most magic, and cold effects can even heal his body. Fire and acid are usually capable of injuring him. He has powerful fists and can strangle his victims if he manages to grab them. Despite his combat prowess, he prefers to attack his enemies using guerrilla tactics, utilizing his knowledge of the terrain to his advantage. Adam has an empathic and telepathic connection with his creator, Victor Mordenheim. Although he is unable to know his creator's thoughts, he feels all of Victor's emotions, and even the physical pain felt by Dr. Mordenheim is also felt by Adam. This connection is even deeper, and their destinies are intertwined. If Adam is destroyed in combat, his soul will be immediately transferred to another flesh golem in Lamordia. The soul of the previous golem will be destroyed, and over the course of a few days, it will transform his attributes and physical appearance until Adam is fully reconstituted. This ability only exists while Victor Mordenheim is alive. The only way to permanently destroy the creature is by simultaneously destroying Adam and Victor Mordenheim. Adam lives in Solitude on the Isle of Agony, where he has made a home among the island's natural caves. He makes frequent visits to Lamordia, however, to observe and learn, as well as to interfere with the plans of his hated creator. When Adam wishes to close the borders of his domains, he can summon a powerful blizzard, whose winds can push back the victims to Lamordia and expose them to intense cold. But why was this creature, formed from an amalgam of corpses, chosen by the dark powers as the Dark Lord of Lamordia? Adam was created through a scientific experiment by Dr. Victor Mordenheim, who stitched him together from the bodies of numerous distinct corpses. The identity of these bodies that served as involuntary donors for his formation is unknown. Adam came into the world without any memories of the previous life of the bodies that contributed to his formation, but he was capable of rapid learning under the guidance of his creator. Much speculation surrounds what caused this creature to have such a profound corruption of his essence. Adam likes to believe that he came into the world innocent, and that he only became bitter, violent, and vengeful as a reflection of the rejection and treatment he received from humanity. Some speculate, however, that this vile and cruel nature stemmed from the individual corpses that composed his body, and some go further, saying that when Dr. Victor Mordenheim renounced his belief in the gods and challenged their power of creation, they took revenge and imbued his creation with a malign and disturbed soul, full of evil intentions. Shortly after his creation, he was named Adam by his creator Victor Mordenheim, was filled with pride at his achievement of creating life. Mordenheim began the process of educating Adam, who lived confined to the property, to avoid questions from other residents of the nearby community. After concluding his work, Mordenheim summoned his wife Elise back to the property. The couple could not have children, and Mordenheim presented Adam to her as the son they could never have. But all Elise felt was a deep revulsion for the creature and for the obsession of her husband. Adam did little to improve the situation and began to show a disturbing affection for Elise. Adam argues that his obsession with Elise was pure and true love, but perhaps it was a reflection of his empathic and telepathic connection with his creator, with whom he maintains a supernatural connection. Elise, in turn, had a deep horror of the acts committed by her husband, and Adam's grotesque appearance caused her profound revulsion and horror. For 2 years, they lived in this cycle of rejection and suffering, until Mordenheim, in an attempt to appease family relations and provide a desired child for Elise and a sibling for Adam, adopted a rejected 7-year-old child named Eva. Elise immediately grew fond of the girl, treating her with great affection and care, fulfilling her deep desire for motherhood. However, Eva's arrival at Mordenheim property only increased family tension. Adam and Eva began to develop a friendship as the child did not view his grotesque appearance with any prejudice. Mordenheim, always cold and calculating, wished to use Eva as a twisted attempt to encourage his creature to deepen its social development. Elise, in turn, believed that Adam was a threat to the child, and saw jealousy and desire for revenge in his eyes. Elise and Victor still argued constantly, and Elise threatened to abandon her husband, taking Eva with her, which would be intolerable for Adam, who had genuine affection for Eva. He then planned to go to Eva's room at night and rescue the child, fleeing far away from his creator and his wife. He crept into Eva's room to tell her his escape plan and ask her to pack her things. His unexpected arrival startled her, and she woke up with a small scream. Adam put his hand over her mouth to stop her from screaming and drawing attention. However, Elise was awake and entered the room at the moment upon hearing Eva's voice, witnessing the creature over the child, its hand on her mouth. She exploded in fury, fearing that Adam would harm the child, and wielding an ornamental spear for decoration, attacked Adam. Adam tried to explain himself without success. While Adam tried to dodge the blows, Eva, quite frightened, fled through the window to the tower balcony, but losing her balance on the wet stones, she plummeted from the tower into the sea. Desperate, Adam rushed to her aid to try to save the child. Fortunately, he discovered that the girl was hanging by her nightgown, caught on the broken balcony railing. Adam stretched out and bent down to rescue Eva, grabbing her by the wrist. Elise, believing that Eva had fallen to her death, was overcome by murderous rage. As Adam was about to pull Eva up, Elise pierced him again with the spear. Overcome with pain, Adam's grip loosened, and Eva slipped into a fatal fall. All Adam had left in his hand was Eva's torn nightgown. The spear wound was nothing to Adam, but now he was the one who exploded in maddened rage, attacking Elise with all his fury. At that moment, Mordenheim entered the room, witnessing Adam's terrible violence while carrying the tatters of Eva's nightgown in his hands. Elise was gravely wounded, on the verge of death, but Adam, confronted by his creator and feeling Victor Mordenheim's emotion of absolute horror and hatred for his creation, chose to flee this home of pain and suffering and jumped from the balcony. For some time, Adam wandered through Lamordia, but found only rejection, hatred, and unjustified attacks. He would never be recognized as a man, and would always be seen as abomination and monstrosity. His frustration against these attacks turned into outbursts of fury, and the population of Lamordia soon learned to fear the monster that roamed the outskirts, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. Adam wandered alone through Lamordia until he crossed the frozen seas to the Isle of Agony. In the frozen landscape, he made his home, inhabiting a network of natural caves, accessible only through a flooded passage. The solitude wounded him bitterly, and he felt a deep hatred and desire for revenge. He constantly left his refuge to prowl around Lamordia, especially around Mordenheim Manor, where he discovered that Victor had used the devices he had used to create Adam to keep Elise alive in a comatose state. Adam also realized that Victor had not abandoned his nefarious experiments, and that he was also creating other flesh golems and conducting various experiments to try to find a way to save Elise. Longing for companionship, Adam watched from the shadows, trying to learn how to create others of his kind. Using stolen equipment and discarded bodies, he tried countless times to imitate his creator and bring other flesh constructs to life. After years of learning and failed attempts, he finally managed to reanimate bodies and create dread golems. However, his efforts resulted in simple creatures, incapable of feeling any emotion, and he soon rejected these imperfect and inferior creations. Several attempts were made, but Adam's children were soon rejected by the monstrous creator and abandoned to their own fate. In his quest to inflict suffering to his creator, Adam soon discovered that directly attacking Victor would not be efficient, as he also had to endure the pain of the wounds he inflicted. Cursed to an eternal confrontation, he understood that his revenge should not come from the destruction of Mordenheim, but from the frustration of his plans. In 708 of the Barovian calendar, Mordenheim tried a new strategy to save Elise. He hired two necromancers from Ilaluk, Friedrich Kreucher and Hilda von Krasfield, who would help him attempt a soul transfer process in Elise to a new healthy body. The spiritual necromancers had taken up residence in Mordenheim Mansion and were preparing to begin their work, but Adam watched from the shadows and decided to thwart their plans. Invading the mansion, he kidnapped Hilda and took her to the Isle of Agony to stop the experiment. Adam was supposed to destroy her, but Hilda showed respect and sympathy, and Adam told her his version of the events that led to his isolation and enmity with Victor Mordenheim. Gradually, he seemed to gain some degree of Hilda's trust. However, while he went out of his lair to find food for his prisoner, Victor Mordenheim, her partner Friedrich, and a hunter named Dragonov rescued Hilda from the lair. Adam was overcome with fury and attacked the group, confronting the skilled hunter. To his surprise, Igor transformed into a lupine beast, and in the fierce combat that followed, the ice shattered beneath their feet, throwing them in the frozen waters. Beneath the icy sea, he eventually lost Igor, but it took him a while to find his way back to the frigid surface. He returns to the Mordenheim mansion to exact his revenge, but his story somehow convinced Hilda of Victor Mordenheim's evil nature, and they sabotage the soul transfer ritual, and Hilda and Friedrich attempted to escape Lamordia. Having thwarted his creator's plans, and taking pleasure in seeing his disappointment, fury and frustration, Adam returns to his solitary life and his own machinations. In the year 739, he acts against his creator again. Knowing that Mordenheim was advancing in his cell regeneration experiments, he invades the Mordenheim property and this time kidnaps Elise. Despite the deep resentment he feels toward Elise, whom he blames for his first rejection and for Eva's death, he is unable to destroy her. Knowing that Mordenheim already knew the location of his lair in the Isle of Agony, he hid her in the monastery of the Quickening Thunderbolt, along with the monks of the Order of the Seekers of the Spark. This order of reclusive monks is composed of flesh golems, Adam's children, who after being rejected by their monstrous creator, organizing themselves into a community where they created a religion and seek to replicate experiment to propagate their race. Elise's kidnapping leads Mordenheim to use a newly created flesh golems, who once had been adventurers, to try to rescue Elise and confront Adam. These skilled adventurers agreed to help Mordenheim in exchange for the promise of the restoration of the natural bodies, and after a long expedition, they managed to rescue Elise and return her to Mordenheim's care. Despite Victor Mordenheim's victory, his new experiment was unable to fully recover Elise. He transplanted her brain into a new body, a clone of Elise created by cellular regeneration. However, although her shattered body was healed, Elise's mind was already destroyed by years of trauma and experiments at the hands of her cruel husband, and she immediately attempted suicide. Now, she is kept in a straitjacket and a cage under constant care to prevent her from ending her life. Adam shares Victor's feeling of agony and frustration with his wife Fate. Secretly, he savors his creator despair, knowing that his revenge is far from complete, and they will forever be destined for mutual agony and torment. We finish reading Adam's records of his past with horror. We realize the great danger we are by invading the lair of such a dangerous creature. As if our horror could materialize and come to life, we hear heavy footsteps echoing through the cave as someone approaches. We quickly seek to escape this place and made our way back to the hole through which we fell. The blizzard still rages outside, but the cold and snow are better than facing the horror that dwells here. We jump a few times without reaching the edge, and we hear a growl of fury coming from behind us, when the creature realizes that someone has invaded its lair. Driven by desperation, we finally manage to reach the edge and rise to the surface, while the monster quickly came after us. Once on the surface, we moved away as fast as we could through the blizzard, but our efforts were in vain, as Adams appears before us. In panic, we fire at the monster, which seemed to ignore our attack, but was overcome by murderous fury. With its strong arms, it grabbed our necks and began to strangle us. Death seemed near when the inner beast awakens, and we quickly transform into lupine beasts. We managed to escape Adam's clutches to battle the creature, but even in our cursed monstrous form, we were unable to win this fight. Wounded and cornered by the monster, we used the speed of our animal form to flee and distance ourselves from the creature. As always, we have no memory of what happens when we are in this cursed form of a werewolf. But we awaken, bloodied, in an alley in some village or city. Tasting blood in our mouths, we know we have committed terrible acts, but we have no time to react when guards approach to capture us. Imprisoned, we are interrogated about our brutal mayhem, and the spectre seems skeptical of our claims that we suffered from a supernatural curse that transforms us into werewolves. Treated as dangerous lunatics, we are immediately thrown into cells, and later then taken to the Mordenheim sanatorium. Without any chance of defense, we became subjects of scientific studies, which aim to study our insanity and even test the veracity of the existence of a pathogen that can transform us and change our behavior. Amidst doctors, scientists, and madmen, we begin to hear and unravel the most disturbing secrets of this land of reason and science. Join us, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, and let's explore the secrets of Lamordia.